enough about that game, so I'll leave it at that. Just to follow up on what Ms. Dean just asked, I think it's Dr. Copan, you mentioned the Restore Act in your written testimony. I believe you in your oral testimony as well. I was curious about your answer to Ms. Dean's question about the view about that bill.
Yeah, thank you so much. And indeed, I did mention that in my testimony, the important step forward that represents for U.S. innovators. I do believe that it is important to provide that kind of position of strength for the United States innovators to know that they have the ability to take action in support of their invention, and to deal with bad behavior in the marketplace, those who are holding out, and indeed to have clarity also in the courts of the ability to move forward with injunctive action when other remedies fail.
Thank you. Mr. Baker, I want to go back to your testimony. You said, well, I'll phrase it as a question. How do we keep Western module makers in business? Because I think your testimony was the way things are moving, they will be forced out of business in relatively short order.
Leveling the playing field. We're a component manufacturer. We do not operate at the end product level. So leveling the playing field with predictability within the marketplace so that we know that when we are making a component, we not only have direct access to patent rights, which allows us to innovate. Because when you have this module that's standard essential and you're using it, you then have to take this module and you have to integrate it into whatever the device is, whether it's a car alarm, whether it's a tracking device. So we are innovators also. We need direct patent rights, which means a direct patent. If you go ahead and you do just end product licensing, what you make us is a commoditized producer and manufacturer of these products. That only serves the Chinese purposes even more so because of the way that they actually do business. But leveling the playing field and requiring everyone who is participating and using those patents to have predictability in how much we will need to pay for the patents in an aggregate form, and also what is the true value of the collective standard essential patents used by that product. That would go a long way to keeping us in business.
Let me generalize on your answer there, because I think there have been a number of comments in the testimony about how to deal with the activities of the Chinese and how to sort of address some of the misconduct. But they are frequently, we're going to make efforts, we're going to pressure them, we're going to join different organizations and exert additional influence. And not to be cynical, but I don't know that they're always responsive to those sorts of things. What actual sorts of legal and economic leverage do we have that we can assert in order to force more egalitarian behavior or more a level playing field of behavior, so to speak, with respect to the way China's handling these issues?
Yeah, well,
I'll start with Mr. Cohen, I guess.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's one that I think of constantly. Obviously, one response is tariffs. So, you can, and that's something that I think President Trump is probably going to look at.
That's timely, yeah. Elaborate on that a little bit. What's your take there?
Well, the problem I have with tariffs is that if you start imposing tariffs for an IP-related issue, it's going to invite retaliation by China, perhaps on our own IP rights in China. So I'm concerned about China's capacity to cross-retaliate. And we have an IP system that, to this day, basically treats every party appearing in a U.S. court, foreign or national or local, equally. And so we begin to erode that system. We have to really think of the global consequences to eroding that system. And that concerns me, because we're seeing the erosion of MFN concepts and tariffs. Is IP next, and what are the consequences for that? That's something to think about.
Let me go to Mr. Baker.
Yep.
Look, I have to agree with the tariffs also, although we are not strong supporters of subsidies. If we're going to level that playing field, you have to look at all options.
Mr. Cotter?
I think the options are, it's very difficult to figure out what the options are for compelling China or any other nation to do what we want them to do with regard to intellectual property. I mean, most of that, I think, is going to have to be carried on through diplomacy and where possible through the WTO, but that is something that takes a lot of time and has its defects.
Doctor? I'm still looking for the cudgel here.
Yeah, I think that this is a challenge that also can involve stopping of importation of goods into other nations that are very clearly infringing, and as China seeks to access global markets, working with other nations to ensure that they're not accessing them with infringing products is an important step to consider.
I thank you for your comments. I know that you had additional things that you wanted to say. My time's expired. I yield back, but I thank you for your testimony.
It was good use of your time.